Ready for a deep dive into something truly chilling?
I'm in. Always up for a good scare, especially when it's literary.
Excellent. Well, today we're venturing into the shadows of Transylvania with Bram Stoker's Dracula, experiencing the horror through Jonathan Harker's journal entries.
Ooh, Harker's Journal. Now that's a stroke of genius by Stoker.
Isn't it? We're dropped right into Harker's shoes, trapped with him in that gloomy castle.
And we're never quite sure what's real and what's a nightmare, are we?
Precisely. Just like Harker himself, those early entries, those little details, like his clothes being perfectly folded.
Or his watch being unwound.
Yes, it all feels just a tad off, creating this sense of unease that just burrows under your skin.
It's classic Gothic literature. Stoker uses Harker's unreliable narration to make us, the readers, doubt everything we're experiencing.
Oh, absolutely. And that doubt, that creeping suspicion, it just builds and builds, especially when Harker discovers that locked room, the one with the splintered door.
The one he only glimpsed the night before.
Exactly. It's like that door represents Harker's confinement, both physically within the castle and mentally within his own increasingly doubtful perceptions.
You've hit the nail on the head. That's Gothic doubling at its finest. It makes us question reality alongside Harker. Are we imagining things, or is there truly something sinister at play?
And then there's the way the Count manipulates Harker, making him write those letters home.
Those letters are chilling, aren't they? The way the Count forces Harker to add dates, making it seem like he's about to leave.
It's like he's orchestrating this elaborate deception, making sure no one suspects a thing.
Precisely. It maintains the illusion of normalcy to the outside world, while simultaneously putting a very real clock on Harker's existence.
Those dates become a countdown, a constant reminder of Harker's dwindling time.
The tension is almost unbearable. And then, just when you think things can't get any worse, those Stegani people arrive at the castle.
On the surface, they seem like Harker's chance at freedom, a connection to the outside world.
Right. And yet they represent the unknown. The Stegani, sometimes called gypsies, existed on the fringes of society.
So they're both appealing and terrifying to Harker, especially with the Count always lurking in the background.
And lurking he is. Don't forget how he intercepts Harker's letter to Mina, the one with the coded message.
Ugh, my heart sank when I read that. Talk about a punch to the gut. It's like the Count is always one step ahead, watching Harker's every move.
Absolutely. And that control, that chilling calmness, it just reinforces how powerless Harker is in this situation.
And as if things couldn't get any worse, Harker realizes that his clothes, his travel papers, even his journal are missing.
It's a calculated move, stripping Harker of his possessions, his identity, everything that connects him to the outside world.
It's psychological torture.
Exactly. And then come those ominous lighter wagons in the dead of night.
Large, mysterious boxes delivered under a veil of secrecy.
Stoker is a master of implication.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell us what's inside those boxes, but the context, the timing. It all points to something sinister.
He lets our imaginations run wild, mirroring Harker's own growing terror. I mean, talk about creepy. You're stuck in a castle with no way out, and then boom, those wagons show up, shrouded in secrecy. It's like something out of a nightmare, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Stoker knows how to get under our skin. But it gets even creepier, doesn't it? Harker sees something that really sets him on edge.
Oh, you mean when he spots the Count leaving the castle? Dressed in Harker's clothes, no less.
Exactly. And carrying that same terrible bag, the one the three women took away. The one that filled Harker with so much dread. It's like all his suspicions are confirmed in that one chilling image.
It's like the moment in a horror movie when you realize the killer is closer than you thought, your blood just runs cold. It's that primal fear of being hunted, of being framed for something you didn't do.
And just as he's dealing with that horrifying realization, he has that strange experience with the dust.
Oh, you mean that mesmerizing, almost hypnotic dust? What's that all about? It's like Stoker is adding another layer of weirdness to the story.
Right. It's this fascinating blend of the psychological and the supernatural. On one hand, you could interpret it as Harker's sanity unraveling, him seeing things that aren't really there.
Which, let's be honest, is a very real possibility given what he's going through.
Exactly. But on the other hand, it could be a manifestation of the Count's power, a glimpse into the true nature of his influence.
So is it all in Harker's head, or is there something genuinely supernatural at play? It's that ambiguity that makes Dracula so effective.
And terrifying. Which is scarier, a world where the lines between reality and madness are blurred, or a world where the impossible is terrifyingly real.
It's enough to make you want to sleep with the lights on. And speaking of terrifying, let's talk about that scene with the woman and the wolves.
Oh, that scene is brutal. Up until this point, Harker's fears have largely been focused on his own survival. But this encounter with the mother and child, it reveals the true scope of the Count's cruelty, his utter disregard for human life.
It's heartbreaking. This woman is desperately searching for her lost child, and, well, I don't want to spoil it for our listeners, but let's just say it doesn't end well.
It's a turning point in the story because it pushes Harker to action. He realizes he has to escape not just for his own sake, but to try and stop the Count from hurting anyone else.
And that's when he decides to take that huge risk and enter the Count's room. He's looking for the key to his freedom, but what he finds is, well, it's even more disturbing than he could have imagined.
Because the Count's room, it's not what you'd expect, is it? It's not some lavish vampire's lair.
It's described as surprisingly bare, almost Spartan.
Exactly. Dusty, with only a few ancient coins scattered about. It's like a tomb.
Oh, and speaking of tombs, what about that chilling discovery in the chapel?
You mean when Harker stumbles upon the Count's coffin? That's when the reality of the situation truly hits home. Up until this point, there's been that element of doubt that maybe, just maybe, there's a rational explanation for everything.
Right. Like maybe the Count is just an eccentric old man with a few strange habits. But seeing him lying there, lifeless yet undeniably present.
It confirms everything. The vampirism is real, the danger is real, and Harker is in way over his head.
And just when it seems like there might be a glimmer of hope that maybe Harker can actually escape Bam, the Count slams the door shut, trapping him once again.
Talk about a crushing blow. It's like Stoker is toying with us, giving us that glimmer of hope only to snatch it away at the last moment.
It's almost worse than seeing the Count in his coffin, isn't it? Knowing he's out there moving freely while Harker is trapped.
Absolutely. It's that sense of inescapable dread. The feeling that no matter what you do, you can't outrun the inevitable.
And for Harker, that inevitability is a face-to-face confrontation with the Count.
He goes back to the chapel, doesn't he? Driven by this potent mix of fear and fury.
He's not just trying to escape anymore. He's looking for a way to fight back.
And when he finds the Count, it's like that moment in a horror movie when the monster reveals its true form.
He's gone from that gaunt figure in the coffin to, well, almost vibrant.
Rejuvenated and covered in blood. It's a stark reminder of what Harker is truly dealing with.
The Count's vampirism is real, and it's terrifying.
And in that moment of pure desperation, Harker grabs the nearest weapon he can find, a shovel.
A shovel, of all things. Why a shovel? It seems like an odd choice.
It's not as random as it seems. Think about it. A shovel is a tool for burial, for putting things in the ground to stay there.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it like that. It's a symbol of mortality, of trying to conquer death itself.
Exactly. And what is the Count if not the embodiment of death's defiance?
So Harker, in his terror and rage, is trying to fight back against something that shouldn't even exist.
But of course it backfires spectacularly, doesn't it?
The Count is too strong, too fast. He vanishes, leaving Harker alone with those three unsettling women.
Talk about adding insult to injury. Not only has Harker failed to destroy the Count, but now he's trapped with these haunting figures who embody everything he fears.
It's like being trapped in a nightmare with no way out. But Harker, he still has some fight left in him. He sees an opportunity with the approaching dawn and decides to climb the castle walls, even taking some of the Count's gold.
And that's where Stoker leaves us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hanging on the edge of a cliff, wondering if Harker actually made it out alive.
It's such a powerful ending, leaving so much to the reader's imagination. Did Harker escape the castle? And if he did, was he ever truly free from Dracula's influence? These are questions that linger long after you finish the book.
Because that's the real horror of Dracula, isn't it? It's not just about vampires and castles. It's about the unseen forces that haunt us, the shadows that follow us, even when we think we've escaped.
It's a story that gets under your skin and stays with you long after you've turned the last page. So as we close the chapter on our deep dive into Bram Stoker's Dracula, we're left with one final, chilling thought. What lurks in your shadows, and could you escape if it ever decided to break free?